Okay, hey friends, thank you for your patience. But no, who wants to sit in one seat for like an hour anyway? I think we did y'all a favor starting late. So I'm Jordan, and these are my friends, and this is going to be a panel that kind of shares our stories, and we all have very, I think, not traditional paths to be here today, and I think it's very interesting. And so I'm going to start with questions, and each one of us are going to answer every question. So we'll kind of just go down the line and then start over. Cool, cool? Cool, cool, cool? Okay, first question. So where were you born? Let's start at the very beginning. I was born weirdly close to where I live now in... Kim has her phone. Yeah. Good thing.
It's a good thing.
Somewhere, but it's in my bag.
So we're good.
Extra good.
We definitely found it. Okay. So I was born in Florida, and then I lived a bit in DC, and then I moved back. I will pass it on to Carol.
Sure. So I am the Carol, because we had like names, but the Carol one. I'm from Brazil, and I was born in the capital of Brazil, which many people don't know is Brasilia. And yeah, that's it so far. And I live in São Paulo currently.
All right. I am Kimberley Huizing. I was born in The Hague, for all intents and purposes, like slightly outside. But yeah, The Hague, the Netherlands.
And hello, I'm Wendy, and I was born in Orlando, Florida, in the United States.
Oh. Yeah, then we'll just go back this way. Cool, cool. So I think it's really interesting. What was the thing what did you want to be when you grew up? Like the first thing, whether it's like a princess or being in Florida, the Mickey Mouse Club was really big, and I kind of lived close to Orlando, and so I watched all of the singers and the dancers, and that's what I wanted to be like. I guess like Britney Spears, in the Mickey Mouse Club doing Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake stuff. Glad I dodged that bullet. My mom said that I was going to be a lawyer when I grew up, which I feel like is a little offensive and just meant that I liked fighting as a kid. So that's what I wanted to do. Wendy.
I think as a child, as many little girls where I was from wanted to be, or I don't know, that time was like, I'm going to be a veterinarian. Then you get a little older, a little wiser. Then you go, I want to be a marine biologist. Especially living in Florida, you're like, shamu and dolphins and manatees and stuff like that. So that was a pretty natural progression as a kid.
So I kept bouncing around. I wanted to be something different every week. But the most popular ones that kept coming back were hairdresser or doctor.
I didn't want to work.
Yes.
But to be honest, when I had to really start thinking about that, high school, I started thinking of performing arts, and I was accepted in the performing arts school. But we had two parts of the selection process, and I didn't quite make to the to the second step. And the other option was the one that I actually followed, hospitality, tourism. And I really like the part of the cooking out of it. But yes, when I was a child, I never had a real I used to play like doctor and stuff, and teacher as well, but never with a really I want to be that when I grow up. So
yeah, I also did not get into the Mickey Mouse Club, so I feel that. Okay.
Glad for it though.
And jump forward. What is your, role, responsibility, and we'll get role, responsibility, company. I am Jordan. I'm a staff software engineer at Nubank. But really, I work on the Datomic developer success team. So I help people be successful using Datomic, which is a database.
Right. The defeats of my previous life, of my professional life, brought me. Today, I am a mid-level, just recently promoted to mid, software engineer at Nubank. Thanks. And I work at the abstractions team. Basically, we abstract databases that we use at the company using Clojure.
Abstraction.
So I was a Scala engineer for 6.5 years. and now I'm a consultant. So I think my official title is like senior polyglot engineer. Yeah. Oh, and I work at Silva.
You're still allowed to rep Scala. Like you can, yeah, just take that one. Yeah.
I'm working a small consultancy. I feel like I don't really have a title. I just
those are
do,
the best
do the
jobs.
things. And
Yes,
so I'd
all the
say junior to mid-level software developer using Elixir. Started my journey in 2022, learning programming for the first time. So it's been a fun ride. And I've been with my company for a year and loving it.
Okay, and now we're gonna do. What was your first like real person job? Like, so we did. What do you want to be when you grow up? What you're doing now, and then we're going back to like your first like your first non-tech job, and like, I guess a little bit how you got it.
Mine, besides like babysitting as a teenager, was doing audio engineering from home with my now husband. Doing audio engineering and mastering as a high schooler. So that was my first paid stuff that I did. And then I started working for a company that I stayed with for over 20 years called Publix Supermarkets, which is big in the southeast of America. Did that answer?
Yeah.
All right. My very first paid job was when I was 14, and I was working alternating days in the kitchen as a dishwasher and on the beach with an ice cream cart selling ice cream. And then my first like grown-up job was in business development at a gaming company.
I was during high school. We have like when you're not at school, you can be like an intern, like mid-level, like intern. I don't know, high school intern in a public office. So I was like doing this, back in the days, you had to like make physical copies of stuff, fax stuff to people.
Oh.
Yeah, doing like
Back in the old
in the
olden days.
I'm 39. I was born in 1985, so I have some years. So back in those days.
Have a beeper.
And then I was just like the bunch of stuff. And I also work as a secretary in a real estate agency.
Cool. And I also worked at an ice cream shop when I was a teenager that I got all my friends hired, and it closed shortly after I left. I'm like, huh. And yeah, our motto was serving smiles since 1939. I'm like, oh, did I stop? Oh. Okay. So, and we're getting to the learning how to learn part. We set the context. We got the story going. Who was the first person that you knew that did anything in technology, and what did you think of them?
That is a funny part because programming was not very far from me. I used to go to online IRC, Merck chat servers.
Yeah.
And some of my friends even developed scripts like Full Throttle. I don't know if someone remembers that one. And so I had a lot of friends that like worked with that or, programmed like, as a hobby. But that never felt close to me because they were very different from me. I always struggled with school and they were very good at school. I studied in a public school. They studied in a private one. So, that's just like not my thing. They are there. I'm here. So I must say there was a bit of a like non-identification and a bit of the stereotype kind of thing. But I had many, many friends in the area. It was not something very far away, but yeah. So friends from high school and other places and the others.
For me, it was my dad. So he was also a software engineer or like programmer, as they called it back then. He also didn't do computer science. He kind of was at the right time, at the right place when there weren't that many people who did computer science, when you still use like the punch cards and stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he just grew with the industry. And yeah, I did not necessarily think about it as something for me. I didn't know that much about it. I knew that he worked with computers. And yeah, I also think that it was a female socialization thing because in hindsight, it makes a lot of sense for me. But yeah, at that time when I was a teenager, when I was like picking studies, I just really didn't think it was for me.
I didn't meet anybody who was building software till I was a teenager, but my dad was an electrical engineer, and there was always just a lot of broken computers around. Like it was just like normal to have like a couch full of like 7 monitors and like huge CPUs and maybe some keyboards and stuff in there. Just like a lot of hardware around that was old, but it's like, it's okay. If I get 10 old things together, like I'll maybe get like 2 computers out of this, you know? So it was like a lot of, yeah, just like build stuff from old parts. Like here you have, you know, so I didn't have like a modernish computer maybe till I was a teenager. But I had like an old, I don't even know what it is. I'd have to like go try and find a photo if it existed. But that was like my first, like just like being around a lot of old computers, old broken computers. And then when I met my husband when I was a teenager, yeah, he was the one who was like doing magical, like writing scripts and making programs. And I was like, that just looks like that's cool for you. Like, I have no idea how you do that. And I think it's really cool that you do. Didn't interest me. I was just like, well, I can't do that. I mean, didn't even cross my mind as that was something that I would want to do or wasn't appealing at the time at all. But I thought it was really neat. And I was like, I thought just that was very impressive and cool.
Yeah. I must have even just seen advertisements for like Office Space or some. I think I lumped in like all office workers, like IT, engineer, all of it. I'm like, boring. Like, ugh, I could never. I could never. It's just sit in a room all day. Ugh. And well, that changed. And okay, so a little bit that changed. I guess I'll go. That changed for me when I was working as a bartender in York, Pennsylvania, and somebody came in and they had all these cool stickers on their laptop. One of them was a Zelda sticker, and I really liked playing Zelda, mostly with my little brother. We would actually barter, play video games, and I'd be like, I want to play outside. So we'd do like play together for an hour inside, and then my time was like outside. But so I had fond memories of like, I was like, ooh, Zelda, what's up? And that person was like, you should really try programming. And I did the same thing. No, I could never. It's like, well, you don't need to go to college. I'm like, huh, I'm listening. It's like, you can work from home. Like, you do sit at home and do nothing all day. Huh. And so, yeah, then kind of started spoon feeding me SICP, but I will stop there. And that's kind of when I was like, oh, different things in tech exist, and they're not all just like, what's that meme with the if your boss is wearing these pants, like you're not getting the new Java. Like it's not all that. Okay, what was the question there? We're trying to segue into when you realized it was for you, when you could, you're like, huh, yeah, me too. All right. Who's the mic? You have the mic.
That's me. Yeah, there was a point where I started to see my enjoyment of problem solving or creative problem solving and making things with my hands, that I could move that over to building things and working abstractly more and use a computer to build things and create things. So when I saw building programs more as an art and something that I could create versus, I don't know, math that just falls out of the sky, or I don't know, like it just seemed more like, oh, I already make things like with my hands. Like I did, I know this is maybe a jump, but I built wedding cakes and cakes for a long time. And I learned that from scratch, like didn't know how to do that, learned how to do it. Took a long time, screwed up, made a lot of crap cakes, made a lot of awesome cakes. And like same thing with sewing. So like creative hobbies of learning how to take things apart or see why things work, and then trial and error and making crap and making more crap and make more crap. And then to find like, oh, this is less crap. All right, this is awesome. When I thought I could apply that to other things that could be meaningful and make a career out of that. That's when I thought, okay, maybe when I saw it more as like less like math or chemistry, but more like art, then I was like, okay, I'm in. I want to do this.
Was it the podcast? About what was it? That it's more like dance or something. I remember. So I know. So some context for you all. Wendy's husband, Robert, is now my manager, but we knew each other previously from, I was on the Cognicast, which is the podcast for Closure, and he was like I just showed up to this podcast, he was the interview person, and that's when I first met him. But I remember right after that, we did the little session, and after that he goes, you should really meet my wife. You all are very similar. And I remember talking about how that same segue for me, like, oh, a computer program is a creative thing. It's like, there's not one answer that I'm discluded from.
And that was good, but also scary of like, there's no one right way to do things. And like, that was a surprise for me maybe I'm jumping forward a little bit, but jumping forward of realizing there's not just one way to do a thing, which was great, but also scary and frustrating at times when you just want an answer. Like, just Google the one way to do this thing. Let me connect these things and I can solve a problem, but there's a million ways. So that was a surprise for me, learning programming.
Yeah, cool surprise.
Yeah, for me, I started working in business development, and before that I was already like self-reliant from the age of 18. I was working in restaurants, I was working in call centers, and in the Netherlands, if you're below 23, you don't even make full minimum wage. It's a sliding scale up to minimum wage. So all this time I was like, oh, okay, but when I get my diploma, I will do work that I actually enjoy. People will not be rude to me. And then I started in business development, and the first year was awesome. The second year felt like a deja vu, like I was bored. We were doing the same thing. And then I realized I was working at a gaming company. I was actually doing a lot of business intelligence. I was teaching myself SQL. I was doing kind of like product owner-like things. And I realized that the most technical parts of my job were the parts I enjoyed the most, and that I actually really need continuous challenge, analytical challenge. So then I decided, okay, I'm gonna switch, which was easier said than done.
Well, it happened. It was a weird thing because I was on like more than 15 years working with events, and I opened a pizza shop. I, became a pizza chef, made a cookery course, but I worked with in the government too, like in the tourism area, and everything was kind of okay. Like I couldn't complain. But then, and I had my business, like the pizza shop, and then the pandemic hit in 2020, everyone I think remembers that. And then it started to get tough. And I saw myself like, I'm 35 years old. I've done a lot of things. I'm here struggling at this point of my life, what I'm going to do for my future. But just like, yeah, tough life, but I can't complain. Things are okay. Everyone's struggling now. And that was the night of the first of the year of the 2020 to 2021, I was watching this Anthony Bourdain in China. Anthony Bourdain is a chef, and he travels the world, all the things I like to do, cook, eat, travel. And I was just like watching this thing, and he went to China, and he was talking to a self-titled hacker, and he was like talking a lot of interesting things, and he really got me. I was like, I want to do that. I don't know why. I told you I had like a lot of influences before, but I was just like, that's the future. Kind of like, that just opened my eyes. The day after, I started like looking for boot camps or courses for women and, whatever I could do. So I found a lot of options, and then I enrolled, and I was accepted because it was a whole selection process in a boot camp specific for women in Brazil called Reprograma. And that's when I started. And yeah.
Okay. And I guess the most challenging, I started to talk about this a little bit, Wendy, but the most challenging thing once you're like, okay, well, maybe this is for me. All right, well, let me give it a go. My experience, I actually had to start with, there is a book, I think it's called Learning How to Learn. It's inspired. And it was really helpful for me. I'm so grateful because if I wouldn't have gone back and learned how to learn, because I didn't do a lot of learning in school because school wasn't for me. I was too cool for that, of course. So I never actually, turns out doing the homework is how you learn. Like, do you like, huh? But I didn't know that, so I had to go back after the fact, and I read a couple books about like pedagogy and learning, and I've extended that since. But as like a special interest, honestly. But yeah, that was a game changer. There are a lot of things that I didn't expect that I had to learn beyond the technology. That was hard. That was kind of unanticipated.
And that's the part when learning how to learn comes, because of course, like, yes, I'm going to become a hacker, a programmer, whatever. But I was not extremely confident. I was just doing what I had to do. Like, okay, I have to study. And I was not very excited about studying as usual. But because I found this boot camp and they had like a different methodology, I had like all girls around me. We could help each other and we discussed things and we used to do things together. So it was not that thing of like, there's a teacher, there is homework, there are grades and tests. And that thing started to make like sense to me. And few years after, I realized I actually found out that I did all the tests. I had ADHD, and then that's why I never liked, and I struggle, and I have issues, and it's all these things. But when you see that there are different approaches, different ways to understand and how things can make sense to you, that's when I started to learn. I'm still learning a lot of things. And I think this is relevant. That's one point that I want to make sure, like, maybe some of you already have like many years of experience, didn't struggle with that. But first in this career, we never stop learning. So we're going to be always learning, like whatever big or small challenge we'll be learning. And we work with people who are starting their careers or they need help with something. So I think this also might resonate from this point of view. I think like bring this message. So when you understand there are many different ways to learn, it's the same thing that probably you studied and I studied, but the way that was brought to me in that specific context changed the relationship I had with knowledge.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, so for me, I learned on the job. So basically, the short version is that I realized my career switch by just convincing people to give me a job that was more technical than the last. I kind of job hopped my way there. Took about 2.5 years. And until I started writing code, I was picking up everything very quickly. Like people would be like very impressed. Before that as well, I'd worked like in real estate as a tutor, as an administrative assistant at the government. Like everything I did, I always picked it up super quick. And then I started writing code. And the first year, I felt so stupid because every time I thought I understood something, then like right around the corner, here's a new thing you've never heard of that's blowing your mind, right? And also my environment also kind of made me feel that way. Like what I was feeling on the inside was also being reflected back to me. Like, yeah, you don't know anything. We are barely tolerating you. So yeah, that definitely did not help. And that feeling was from the outside lasted for the first 3 years. First 3 years were brutal, which is also something I see in a lot of research about women in tech. There's a leaky pipeline, right? A lot of women drop out in the first 3 years. But yeah, on the first year, I also felt that on the inside, which made it even more difficult.
I think was the question like what surprised you when you started?
Yeah, we're getting into the learning how to, the thing we promised the people.
Okay, all right. Well, the thing that surprised me, like what I could really identify with what Kim was talking about like you think you get it, and then you realize how much you don't know, and you don't even realize how much you don't know. You just know like get a little window into the fact that there's a lot you don't know. So that was something that I personally had to overcome and just accept more so. You don't know what you're doing and it's okay rather than like, I know. But yeah, so self-reflection and acceptance of this is hard. It may suck for a while, may suck for a long time. It may suck in different aspects and other aspects will get better. But you, just accepting the fact that there will be frustration and that things are new. I think if you go in with it, with that mindset is a lot more helpful than like denying that there are things you don't know. So that helped me. But it was something I had to like learn over, and like I had this cycle of being frustrated, and not accepting I was fighting the uncomfortableness. I was saying, if I'm uncomfortable, I must be doing it wrong, because other people don't seem uncomfortable and they're doing it. They're doing it, so they must not be uncomfortable. But that was not true. Like, you can be uncomfortable and still be doing the thing. So that was something I needed to, and I still deal with that, but it's less so. Definitely the first year, the first like couple weeks, months of learning programming from scratch, like not even knowing that you need to break a problem down into small parts. So if you think your problem is like as big as a cinder block, you're like, okay, it's a cinder block. I can pick it up. I could probably throw it a little bit, but you don't realize how heavy that block is. And you're like, I have to cut it into pieces. Like, okay, that is too heavy. All right, let me cut it again. Like, and then it's like, what is the absolute smallest piece of I could take from the cinder block? Really helped me. But in the beginning, it was hard for me because I really didn't even know how to break a problem down, which I feel like that is like the accepting you're gonna feel uncomfortable, and breaking problems down were the things that were my biggest challenges to even make progress in gaining knowledge that I wanted to learn. So once I got over that, or once I got better at that, and accepted and acknowledged those things, I could make better progress.
Yeah, the saying that I used to say is, when in doubt, abstract it out, which is kind of symbolic of just, okay, this function is too big. What is this? These little things. So you touched on something very interesting. I told you I had a special interest in pedagogy. Well, here we go. A lot of times we think that if you just match like an expert up with a beginner, that's gonna be great learning, right? Because this person knows so much, this person knows nothing. Great, Matt, that evens out. And that's not true at all, because of this, it's consciousness and competence scale of how aware you are of what you know and how much you know. So in the beginning, we are unconsciously incompetent. And it's like the Dunning-Kruger effect of, you think you're good at something if you like, oh, how hard could that be? Right. And that's a very dangerous territory. And a lot of times we match those people up with the other end. Experts are unconsciously competent, where they're so fluent, they don't even know how big their little cinder block chunks are. They're just like wearing a cinder block dress, and they're like, oh, you can't lift. Yeah, I showed up like this. I was born like this. And so I've been involved. Had several iterations, but this group called Closure Camp used to be called the Council, not called Closure Camp, and it's a learning group to help. Closure has always been kind of like a language for experts, and so it's kind of breaking that down, and just having like a welcoming, nice place for people to go to. We looked into learning and the most effective ways to do that, and it's through doing, like you said. And so instead of like, I spent a lot of years making videos and doing talks, doing like one-to-many, right? But that's not as effective. That sucks, because I love doing that. I wanted to be on the Mickey Mouse Club. But what's actually effective is putting in this infrastructure for people that want to learn to help each other, because there's this thing, the zone of proximal development of, if you know a little and you know a little and you know a little, you're all the same level, but you don't know all of the exact same things. And you're actually more capable of explaining those gaps to each other if you have the opportunity to get into a group. And it's not about the expert being like, oh, well, this is how you blah, blah, blah. It's about these people that are in similar stages filling each other's gaps. And it's the expert's job to just facilitate and just create and promote. And so we have like a pairing tool where you can just sign up like on this topic, this availability, and it just like matches you up and you just show up in a chat. We have like mob programming sessions and all these different things that we do. But I guess what you notice is like a a problem. And do not get your hopes up. This is not like, it's a nonprofit volunteer, like it is a Discord. It's really what it is. It's like I say, the mentorship program that I co-founded, like the Discord I've been maintaining for a couple of years. But yeah, that was a big, I guess we're getting to like practical tips and anything you can just info dump about learning to these people.
Just before we get to the actual question, that reminded me that later I started working. I had like a mentor that helped me get a job that was like provided by this initiative. And then when I started working in the first few months, of course I was struggling. And then my boss, like current manager at the time, he told me about these, I don't know if everyone knows, but like it's called 42 Network. And he told me about this. It's like a peer-to-peer methodology. And it's like that. They don't have teachers. And it's not saying teachers are not important. I'm just saying there are like many different ways of learning and teaching. And
facilitator and teacher are kind of distinct, right? And a facilitator can be more helpful.
And the students are those facilitators. So you have people with different levels and different ways of explaining things. And I landed, well, there was this whole intensive selection process, and I landed to a 42, which is like a peer-to-peer methodology. And that's like, okay, the UC is really hard, technically speaking, but it's open 24 hours, so you can go whenever you want, whenever you feel like, and that, like, you have a friend. It's not someone intimidating you. So like, even if someone like whatever, different background and stuff with more knowledge obviously than you, but it just reminded me of this experience that I think is useful to share. Like when you have people, I don't know this, but I know that. Oh, I know that. And, let's put this together and we can make a whole project, like making, I don't know, things from scratch, like really deep in levels.
And we are getting to the end, so I don't want to go over time.
I'll try to.
Maybe we all do our last tips, practical. I'll give the people what they showed up for, I guess.
All right, I will try to be brief. But so my answer is twofold. So on the one hand, I learned through doing, like I said. So I would have some problem that I'm trying to fix, something I'm trying to build, read up on it, build it. And while I'm building it, also put in a lot of log lines, because every step I'm thinking like, okay, let's try and have some feedback, or if this is actually doing what I think that it is doing.
Okay.
Then when you have some small unit, write a unit test. Besides that, comprehensive reading. Like I prefer reading over video. And this is also a skill that you have to try and read it as if the person is talking to you, because they structured it in a way to guide you. So like the most important information in a paragraph, for example, is always the first sentence and the last sentence. And whenever I read something, I try to visualize it in my mind. And sometimes, especially in programming, when I was like reading about the actor system or whatever, things are very, very abstract and I didn't have the frame of reference, but I just keep reading it and trying to like understand the words. If I don't, like diagram it out, like just keep going until I understand. And then when it comes to helping other people learn, like in my previous job, I was working at a tech company in London, and I was also mentoring one of the grads. And this was a young woman who just came in from Hong Kong. So she was just like freshly out of Hong Kong to the UK to start this job. She did study computer science. She was very, very smart. And I thought, she has everything that she needs. I just need to help her be confident. So I was just really guiding her in the process, like helping her, like, what do you want to learn? What do you know that you're good at? And just building up her confidence.
Yeah, that's really important.
All right, I would say general things to think about when learning how to learn something can be applied to things that aren't, career changing or programming and things like that. But number one would be to acknowledge that, like I said before, like this is a new territory. So if it's new, that means you don't know about, like if you already knew about it, it wouldn't be new. So it's new. So expect frustration. You don't know it, and that you don't know the thing. That's okay. You're going to keep going anyway. You're going to progress, even though it might not feel like it. Just acknowledge the fact that it's new, which means you're not going to know about it, which means you may get frustrated. And then try to find ways to take effective breaks from that frustration rather than just like staring at it and banging your head at it and then getting burnt out and be like, this is enough for me. Screw this thing. I don't want this anymore. Be like, well, maybe you just shouldn't sat there for 2 hours not making any progress, like just, banging your head against the wall. So go do totally disconnect, like go, whatever that is for you. Like for me, I was listening to like motivational Disney music and dancing in the corner. It may be going for a run with your dog, or hula hooping, or doing hooping, or fire throwing, whatever stuff that Jordan does. Just like something else. Or like in the closure world, there's hammock time from, Rich Hickey's point of view, where there's something like there's lots of things that happen when you take a break besides just like the emotional like disconnect and release from, I'm not dealing with that right now at the moment. Like let your mind process things like in the background. Switch up tasks. Don't think I'm going to work on this for 8 hours today, like an 8-hour solid block. Like, okay, that's cool if you can do that. And I thought like, that's the way it has to be done, but it doesn't have to be done that way. So when you're learning something, to be aware or like just observe the patterns that are or are not working and then adapt from there. You may not have a pattern of what works. So you just start trying things and then see if it works or not. Like 8 hours a day, that's the way it's done. But that might not be what's for you. So it's okay to change. If you do 2 hours and then you don't do anything, like you have a day off, you don't do anything for the rest of the day, and then do 2 hours tomorrow, it's just better to, I feel like, chunking it up how you need to, taking breaks, doing other things, coming back to it, giving yourself space to just process things so you can be a better learner when you come back to it. And then the other thing would be getting into community immediately, even though you think you might not have anything to contribute. Like these people know more than me. What do I have to contribute? But just like get in there, try to get with a community where people who are more on your level. Like you want a mix of levels. Like I got, into closure camp and was just meeting with people. Like at the first, before there was closure camp, it was just me meeting with Jordan on Thursdays for 2 hours from 6 to 8. And we just like, hey, let me help you with your Emacs config. You never have used Emacs before. Let me just give you this. Oh, you just saved me, 3 weeks of banging my head against the wall maybe. So like a little chunk, you get little chunks here and there. So get with community, find conferences that you can volunteer at so you can network and meet other people who have resources, because you don't know everything and nobody else knows everything either, but we all know a little piece. And if we all get together and share, then we can all encourage each other and we can go really far.
So I almost want to just end it on that. That was so good. You know what? Yeah, round of applause. I think that's perfect. Thank you all for joining us. Hopefully it was fun for you.
Thanks for discussion. It was great to hear your experience. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, so if you didn't get your question, please feel free to ask them during the coffee break. And once again, please give a big round of applause for presenters.